Right, so now what we need, it's Firebase. So let's go to right here to the browser and we will search for Firebase, something like this. And of course, the first Firebase-Google you get, that is the one. So for this, you will need a Google account. So if you don't have a Google account, you need to create one, right? So whenever you go to Google, enter Firebase. If you're not authenticated, you need to log in and everything else. And let me change this to maybe N or something like that because it's in Spanish. Okay, so you're gonna get this maybe in English. If of course you're in a Spanish spoken country, you're gonna get it in Spanish, but you're gonna get it. So right here at the top, you're gonna get go to console. I'm gonna click it. So I'm gonna go to my console and I'm gonna get two projects. You're not gonna get anything if you don't have Firebase projects. And I get the test one because I'm on the incorrect place. This is the correct account. I was using the incorrect account, sorry for that. So for example, right here I have the second practice test. This project belongs to this one. So all my database and everything else is hosted on this project. By default with Firebase, you get some free projects and you can upload and see it run in right here, just like Heroku. So this one belongs to this one, but of course I'm not going to use this one. Of course, this one, it's a view test. I'm creating a view course on the side, but it's going to take a little bit more time. So what we need to do right now, we need to add a new project to create a new project. So I'm going to click on add project and mine, it's going to call mcity, make sense. And it can only letters, numbers, and spaces, and this characters. All right, so we cannot do it like this. We can do it like this, mcity. And of course, it's going to give you a project ID. You can select the country, doesn't matter. I'm just going to say accept, and it will create a project. It's going to take a couple minutes. Right, so after it's done, your new project is ready. I'm going to click on continue. And you're going to get this, this endpoint right here. And you're going to get a lot of things with Firebase. Authentication, we will use authentication in this one. Database, we will use it. Storage, we will use it. And hosting, we will use it. So we're going to use the first four. Now, how can we create a database on this one? Okay, if you scroll down, I'm sorry, this changed. Actually, it was different. So I'm going to go to database and you're going to get this right here. And this is actually new because they've released a new product called Cloud Firestore. It's in beta. So we are not going to use Cloud Firestore, of course. I'm going to go right here at the bottom or choose real-time database. Real-time database, create a database. Now, and this, again, this is new. Actually, we didn't have this before. So it gives you the option to run into different modes. Start in locked mode, which this one was the default in the past, or in test mode. Locked mode, it means that the users cannot read and cannot write unless they are authenticated on this project. If they didn't sign in or sign out, they don't have the correct tokens, they cannot read or write from the database. And if you start in test mode, we have true and true, so anyone can read and anyone can write. Now, for now, because we are just testing and developing, we need this structure, true and true. When this goes to production, of course, we need to change this. So I'm going to click enable and remove this one. And then you're going to get, of course, you're going to get this database. And this is the actual database. It's empty so far. It's empty. We will add some things here. So if you go to rules later, inside rules, you can change that read and write to false, or maybe only if it's authenticated. You can do this. So I'm going to go to data. And right here, we need to add some data. But first, we need to connect to our project, make a connection between this Firebase project and our project right here. So we will need to do some configuration. Now, how can we get the configuration and the keys and the passwords we need to connect this project? If we go to project overview, get started here, you get 3 different options. And it says add Firebase to your web app. So I'm going to click it. And it says add Firebase to your web app. And it's going to give you the API key, the domain, and all the configuration that you need to start your project. And they give you this, but of course we are not going to use this. We just use this passwords. Now I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to go back to our project. I'm going to close some things. It's a little bit clearer. Okay. So inside source, I'm going to be adding a file that it's going to be doing the connection between the server and our project. So I'm going to go to source and add a new file called firebase.js. You can call this whatever you want, doesn't matter. The name, it's not important. So inside Firebase, we need to connect with our project. Okay. So first we need to import Firebase. Why? Because we've downloaded a dependency called Firebase that it's in charge of doing all this connection. You know, it's the kind of the SDK. Now the SDK suffered some updates. It was different in the past. Now we need to do it on a different way. Is it still going to work if we use the old way? You might find some documentation with the old way of doing things. But now if you want to skip, the warning messages, we're going to do it, just like this. I'm going to show you in a minute. So first we need to import Firebase from Firebase, and then Firebase and /app. This is the first thing. Now, and this is on the documentation. I know it makes no sense, but this is how we need to do it. Then we need to import just like this, and we open and close, and we pretty much do the same thing. Firebase app, right? So we are importing, the app properties and everything, everything we're going to use from app. All right. Later, we're going to be using a database, the database property. So we need to do import Firebase and database. Later, we're going to use the storage. So we need to import Firebase storage. And, we need to do a lot of things. So at the bottom, right here, we need to bring all the configuration and everything we have right here. So I'm going to copy bar config and everything else. And I'm going to paste it right here. And since we are using ES6, I'm going to say const config. All right. So now we need a way to start our application. How can we do this? Right here we have Firebase, initialize app, and then config. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it right here at the bottom. And that's it. Now what we need to do, we need to include this file from within, our main application, because so far this file has no relation with our project. We didn't include this file in our our project, our app. Right, so that's what we need to do first. All right, so now we're going to do a network request to get some data from the database, because that's the idea. We need to populate this component right here, this one, with some information from the database, but our database, it's empty. So go to database and you're going to see this null. So what we're going to do, I've added as a resource a JSON file, so we can import it and generate a database, so we can have some kind of a real information. Later, of course, we will create an admin endpoint so we can add the matches dynamically into the database, but we will do that later. Now, most of the times when you do a web page or a project with the server, you start with the server first, and then you move up to the front end. That's what we're going to do on the next project. But I wanted to start with this first because, it's a little bit more fun. So, okay. So inside of here, just download what I gave you as a resource. I believe it's mcity something. Just download it. And then what you will need to go right here to the, the dots and import JSON. I'm going to do that right now. All right. So after importing that file, this is how it looks. You're going to get the matches, which is what we're going to be using right now. Then a database with all the players, and the matches and the players are the ones we're going to add dynamically from the admin. Then we have a positions with the position table. We're not going to do this one. I'm going to explain you why later. And then we have promotions, and this is going to be the emails, the emailing list we do at home. We're going to do it later. And then, of course, a list of all the teams, and inside, the name of a team and the thumbnail we're going to be using from the public folder. And we're not going to do this one. Maybe I'm going to do it as a bonus, but much, much later. All right, so now we have some matches. This is what we need to load. We need to make a network request and get the matches from the database, right? So, okay, I'm going to go back to my project. And right now we have this file. We are not including the file. So as a testing purposes, just to make sure we are connecting with the database, I'm going to go right here and import the file right here. So whenever the application starts, we will do that network request from this file. But in real life, we will do it from within the matches, right? Okay. So inside of Firebase, right here, I'm going to go at the bottom. I'm going to create a variable where we're going to be connecting with the database. And I'm going to say const, just like this. And it's Firebase DB. And this is my name. You can put, database or whatever is that you want to call it. And right here, we need to call to a method called Firebase.database. So Firebase.database. And that's why we are importing database at the top, because we need to use this method. So we use Firebase, which is the thing we are importing, and then we use the database. So now in the future, when we want to make a network request to Firebase, we don't have to do Firebase.database and then do everything else. We just export FireDB and that's it. We're just, creating an alias. That's what it is. So now to access the database, we need to pass a reference of what we want to get, what we want to bring. In this case is the matches. So I'm going to go, to ref, open and close, and I'm going to say matches. Now the ref needs one more method. It uses the once method, and everything is on the Firebase documentation. So what we get is the value, right? Okay. And then of course this will return a promise. So we'll do then open and close, and then of course we will return something else, and this is the code we are going to get back. So this then will return a snapshot. Could be a response. It's actually a response, but in Firebase lingo they call it snapshot. Now if I do console log and I console log what we get back from the database as a snapshot, I'm going to go back to home, I'm going to reload, and at least the application is not breaking. I'm going to go to inspect, console, and we get this data snapshot. And this is the console log we get right here. So if I open it, we get a lot of things. Index, key, matches, the node, children, we get a lot of information, but not, the information we want, which is the actual data. So for this, inside of the snapshot, we need to bring the val. So whenever we bring val, the application will reload, and there we go. We get all the matches. And let me show you the structure of this. The structure is a little bit weird. We get, the ID, which is this ID, and then, all the information, but it's kind of an object with keys and objects inside. It's a little bit weird. We don't get an array with objects. We will need to transform this structure to make it work in our project, but that's fine. We're going to get there. But now, at least, we know that if we connect to Firebase with the config and everything else, we are connecting and we are able to make a GET request, and then we will be making a POST request. So now we are connected. That is good. That's the first step. All right. So let's go to the next section. And we will start, we're going to delete this, we're going to delete this, and we're going to start bringing the blocks. We're going to start doing the blocks.